What's good, everybody? It's your boy, O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again with another episode of The Celebrity Junk. I've just got word that popular conservative YouTuber, comedian, political commentator Steven Crowder has announced that he will be getting a divorce. And of course, it seems like it is something that has been under wraps. Some people knew about it. But I want to play just a small clip of Mr. Crowder talking about this, and then we're going to come back.
I have been living with a proverbial boot on my neck for going on years now. Since 2021, I've been living through what has increasingly been a horrendous divorce. Now, let me say on the outset, to be clear, there is no infidelity, any kind of physical abuse at all on either side. And no, this was not my choice. My then wife decided that she didn't want to be married anymore. And in the state of Texas, that is completely permitted. It's been the most heartbreaking experience of my life, what I consider to be my deepest personal failure. And just so you know, my opinions on parenting and families have not changed. I've always believed that children need a mom and a dad, that divorce is horrible. And I still believe that children need a mom and a dad and that divorce is horrible. But in today's legal system, my beliefs don't matter. In Texas, divorce is permitted when one party wants it, period. So for well over a year, in the best interest as well as physical safety of my children, we've decided to keep this issue private and to resolve it privately with the appropriate attorneys, what have you, legal jargon. And all this, one thing I want to be really clear about is certain. True north here is that my children are blameless, completely without fault, and so we decided to resolve these issues privately as it's in their best interests, both emotionally and physically, to do so. Now, the other issue is, and this is something that I've kept private for likely far too long, many other people knew about this behind the scenes. Some, not all, but some of them in positions of power, influence, leverage, knew of this. They also knew that the safety of my children included keeping it private. So if you're familiar with the idea of extortion, then you know the feeling well. Now, some of these threats were so thinly veiled that I'm frankly surprised you didn't all guess immediately.
Steven has a lot going on, I guess is the best way to say it. He has a lot going on, and that should be clear because people don't do stuff like this if there's not a lot going on in their lives. I would like to implore my audience and everybody that isn't paying attention to this situation not to condemn him, but to pray for him. Sometimes people need a prayer. Sometimes people need a scripture. You know, Steven purports to be a Christian. I am unsure at this moment if it is my place to say more than that. You know, maybe if I feel in further defense, some things should be said, or maybe if I feel that the public has a right to understand certain circumstances.
Well, my children have a right to privacy. Now, some other issues have been, or I should say, inferences have been more pernicious behind the scenes with demands and threats to use this information that they believe would be so publicly embarrassing to me and my wife at a difficult time that it could be used, knowingly putting my children in harm's way. So to those self-styled Christians, conservatives, and allies, well, not in my book. Now, if you find yourself, I don't want to get into details, so this is going to likely be the only time I have to address this or want to address this. If you're asking yourself, hey, did X person or did Y person know? The answer is likely yes, which will be made alarmingly clear as this process of discovery continues. And it also, by the way, makes me that much more appreciative of those who did know about this and in understanding the best interests of my family, my children, kept their word and used discretion. I can't thank you enough. Sincerely, I appreciate it. Won't forget it. It's pretty simple. I loved a woman so much that I married her. A woman who, despite all of this, I still love as the mother of my children. And she wanted something else for her life. That's not my choice. She simply wanted out, and the law says that that's how it works. Now, of course, look, I get it. There are multiple sides to every story, but one thing that is undeniable in this case is that it's no one's fault but my own in that I picked wrong, and that's certainly not the fault of my children.
Now, guys, let me just kind of talk about this. Let me tell you some things I like about what he had to say. Firstly, Steven Crowder is very successful for the little I know about him. I've seen him on the platform. I don't really pay attention to what Steven Crowder talks about. I'm more or less into the black space, whereas Steven Crowder talks about more larger, more macro topics concerning American politics. But I do know that he's much richer than me, much more affluent than me, much more known than me, and has more opportunities as far as his platform in comparisons to myself. And I think that when you look at somebody like this guy who makes millions of dollars, one would think, why would a woman want to leave a man like that? He's 35, relatively a young man, living in Texas, no state income tax. He has a huge platform. Almost every video he throws up is a hit, it seems like. And then he talked about it at the end. He goes, I picked wrong. I picked wrong. I picked wrong. I picked a woman that didn't want to stay in the relationship, didn't want to be in my life anymore. And obviously she must have had some reason for doing that. But in his honest opinion, I love my kids, but I picked wrong. See, here's some things that men have to come to terms with. We ignore certain red flags for the women that we decide that we want to marry. And it could be the woman loves you. It could be that the woman is acting different. But ultimately what you will find out, as Bobby Blue Bland used to sing further on up the road, this woman is not conducive to your lifestyle, your well-being. You and her don't have the same goals. People can change, and that typically happens in any sort of friendship or relationship at the same time. Within those changes, you would expect that, we still want to be together. And when that doesn't happen, and it could be you're causing an issue with that, isn't it good to take accountability and say, me and her were never really compatible. I picked wrong. I did wrong. And had I picked better, I'd still be married. No fault divorce is killing guys all over the country. But their folks still married. And you know what guy says what I got divorced? I made the wrong decision. And it's called accountability. Many of us have picked wrong. We picked the wrong college. Picked the wrong city to move to in many cases. Picked the wrong friends. Life works like that. I honestly felt like coming to Uganda, this country, with as many issues as it can have. One of the few things I've picked right in my life. Majorly. I made some mistakes in my life that had I picked the right thing, I probably wouldn't be talking to you right now. But I picked right here. It's the one thing I've done in my last 30s and 40s that I thank God for the wisdom. I picked right, but I haven't always picked right. But when I pick wrong, sometimes we don't want to take accountability for it. We want to make sure that somebody else suffers because we picked wrong. No, I picked wrong. I made the wrong mistake. So guys, what do you think? It's your boy, O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again with another episode of The Celebrity Junk. Producer for all that you do, subscribe with the bell. We're out.